So my guest today is a woman who believes in deeply falling in love with yourself, a woman who's been teaching other women for over a decade to do the same, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a life coach. Please welcome my guest, Coach Tracy Manu. Welcome, Tracy, to Ask Me Anything here with me and Get Coached. I am so excited to be talking with you. I'm a big fan of your work, so I'm like, thank you for making time to talk to me.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and for being a fan.
Your work is awesome. I mean, what I really like is about how you show yourself so authentically and how you are so vulnerable. And I mean, I am always worried that people are going to judge me, to open up and show my vulnerability. So how do you build that confidence to just show yourself as you are?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question. My goodness. Um, I think it's partly who I am, that I am quite open. But also I think we find proof that in our lives that things are working for us. And what I found was the more I was open, the more I felt a connection to myself, that I was honoring me. And I felt a connection with other people because they were saying, I can fully relate. I've been through something similar. So yeah, a connection is so important to me. It's, one of my key values. And so to be able to show up in life and experience that through being myself, really
Right,
helps. Yeah.
right. Yeah, connection, I think. And just before this, we were discussing about connection. I mean, in today's world, I think we are so connected. Like, I can talk to my father who's in India, just on WhatsApp, and it's so awesome. But I think at the same time, with social media, we are so disconnected, right? Like my husband and I are in the bed, we are with our own phones. Yeah, but let's talk about connection with yourself and with your peers, your children, your spouse. You know, like what I feel is I am a brown woman living in this country, calling this country a home. I am an engineer who is now trying to run this business, with coaches. I'm not a coach myself. No one. Connection with myself. The other thing is connection with my children. I quit my job so that I can give more time to my children, right? And a lot of times I feel like, yes, I am physically present with my children, but I've not been with them throughout the day. I've been there, but not there. So I just feel that two connections, one with yourself and one with, my children. And I feel that disconnection at times. So tell us more, to educate us on connection.
Gosh, another big question. You could be a coach. You have great questions. um,
Engineer.
so yeah, I fully agree. I think there is a lot of disconnection due to social media, our phones, people wanting instant answers from us, and there's all this, instant gratification even. And what I find is that the more we are connected to ourselves, and when I say connected to ourselves, I mean the more present we are with what we're doing in the moment, with how we're feeling, with what emotions are coming up, with what's going on in the room. When we're more connected to all those sorts of things, then we feel more connected to other people. We feel more connected to ourselves, because quite often we're not connected to what we're feeling, and we're on autopilot and we're just doing. And then we wonder why we're not believing in ourselves or procrastinating. And it's because we haven't caught ourselves, because we're just doing. And so being in the present moment and really noticing what's going on can be so helpful with creating more deeply rich, yummy connections with other people and with ourselves.
Right.
And I'll give you an example of
Yes.
that. Is this morning, I got home, I went to the gym, I got home, and I thought, like a voice came into my head, go for a walk now, you've got time. And, if I wasn't present in that moment, I would have got into doing. But
Right.
I was like, yeah, go for a walk. And so went for a walk. I took my phone, I listened to a podcast, which was so inspiring. And then I hear another little voice, turn off your phone, put your phone away and sit down. So, I sit on the edge of the water, watching the birds, listening to the sounds, breathing, like so connected to what's going on around me. And
Right.
then when I get up to walk home, I'm in a fully different state than I was, as I was walking down, listening to the podcast, thinking about how that podcast is relating to me and my work and, all that kind of
Yes,
stuff. So
yes,
it's like
yes.
listening to that little quiet voice inside that says, stop, breathe, look
Right,
around you.
right,
Yeah.
right.
To
So
me,
how would you say, suppose I wanted to, okay, start doing that, but how would you listen? How would you know to listen to that voice? Or how do you even identify it? For somebody who's on the go, 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 I think you need some kind of practice to actually
yeah.
even be able to listen to that voice, right?
Yes. I remember a practice years ago I started, which was, it was when my youngest child started school. And so before that, I'd do the grocery shopping and one of the kids would be with me or all the kids would be with me and I'd be racing around getting the groceries and trying to get them to stay with me and all that kind of
My life
stuff.
right now.
Yeah. Yes. And so when my son went to school, I started to go and do the groceries. And as I picked up, I remember it so clearly, I would pick up an orange and I would look at it and I would put it in the bag. And then I would pick up the next one. And so I was being really, really mindful when I did my groceries and just being in the moment and noticing what I was doing. Now, when you're in the moment, that chatterbox on your shoulder, which tells you all that crappy stuff, isn't as loud because you're in the present moment. And so, or if it comes up, you catch it. But I think also in that present moment is when you hear that inner knowing inside you of what you're meant to be doing. So I believe the first step is just practice, whether it's when you're doing the dishes or when you're, writing down your morning plan or whatever. Just be present in doing that and not thinking about what's next, what's
Right,
next,
right.
which
Just
gets us into that doing,
slow
doing, doing.
down.
Slow down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And I hear people saying, but if I'm in the present moment, I'll never get anything done. It's actually the opposite. You get so much more done when you're in the present because you're putting your full attention on what you're doing there rather than all the other stuff that you might have going on.
Right.
So yeah, it really is about being present. Yeah.
Cool.
Does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yes, yes, yes. No, that's awesome. Yeah. Especially the orange example, I think, just, like
Mm.
slowing down, touching it, smelling it,
Yeah.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
What you just explained there is you're using your senses. You're
Yes.
using all your senses. And I feel like intuition is one of those senses,
Right.
so you're just connecting into the senses because intuition can be a feeling. It can be a little voice, it can be a sign that you see. Maybe you're driving along in the car and you see a number plate that says slow down. And you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
there's signs everywhere if we're open to seeing them.
Right.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
mm,
awesome. Awesome. Beautiful. Let's talk about the main focus of your work, which is self-love. I think
mm,
one step ahead from connection.
mm.
And I think this word really means different things to different people. And nowadays, this word is, I think, really interchangeably used with self-care. And if we look at our Instagram feeds, what is self-care? Lavish bubble bath, wine in hand, nicely done nails. So, and
Yeah.
that is what people buy into. Oh, that's a self-love. But as a coach, what is true self-love?
Another great question. So to me, self-love is being kind and caring for yourself no matter where you are and what you're experiencing in life. So we have a habit, many people have a habit of when they're going through a tough time or when they've made a mistake or when they're healing from something that's been going on, they can be quite hard on themselves. And so part of self-love is actually being okay with where you are in this moment rather than striving to be someone else or better or it's about allowing it all to be okay, rather than shoving that stuff down that you deem as negative or bad, and going back to pretending that you are great, that you have got it all together, that, it's actually about accepting those shadow aspects of ourselves that we want to avoid. And as we accept them and we're kind to ourselves, for instance, an example would be a default belief of I'm not good enough. And so whenever that shows up, we shove that back down and we go, I am good enough. And then we react to situations rather than, I feel not good enough in this moment. Oh, I'm going to have compassion for myself about this, and I'm going to encourage myself, just like we do with a child. We encourage them, we don't beat them up because they're not feeling good enough. And so it's this real self-compassion for, this is where I'm at, and I'm going to encourage myself to move through this. And then I'm going to see the proof that, wow, I can get myself out of that, and that makes me good enough, that I was there, and I can be okay, and I can work through that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's really beautiful. They say, like, talk about self-acceptance. Yeah.
Mm.
That I think, yeah, true self-love actually comes from that, because we are so conditioned, isn't it? Like, it should be like this. Oh, you should do this. You should do this. Is how our life should be. And we go into this comparison, and oh, I'm not good enough, like you say. And you either fall in one of those categories where, like, I'm not good enough, so I'm gonna, go under the cover and
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Or like you say, you're like, no, but constantly trying to prove that you're good enough, and you're like really working against everything that you are, and going into
Yes.
a burn down situation. So that's beautiful. And I just remember you'd done the post on Instagram that really resonated with me, and it was a graphic that read, fixing your problem is helpful, acknowledging and healing from what arises from it is life-changing. And I think what you've said, that kind of touched on that. And you had an awesome caption that went with it, which said, we talked about your mindset, not feeling intelligent enough to be around smart people. Would you like to discuss that? That was a really nice post.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, growing up, I really did struggle in school. And so, those old patterns that we have from childhood can show up in life now. And they definitely show up when we're outside our comfort zone and we're trying new things and all that kind of stuff. And so to be aware of that old patterning, that I did not feel intelligent enough, and to be kind to myself, it's almost like I'm talking to that young girl who didn't feel intelligent enough. And so I'm talking to her and I'm encouraging her, and I'm cheering her on, really helps. And then to look for proof that, wow, actually I am really intelligent. I've got lots of wisdom to share. And by doing those two things, by looking for the proof and by acknowledging and encouraging, we begin to create new thoughts, which become new beliefs, which then are a new way of being. And just by having those awarenesses of, that's an old pattern. When we're aware of those old patterns, then we can see when they show up, and we can support ourselves through that, which is that self-acceptance. I know where that came from.
Right.
It's
Right.
okay. It's okay. You're doing great, Trace. And,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
And
love how beautifully it's actually connected, our mindset, our belief, and then it comes into self-acceptance, and as you say,
yeah,
self-love. So, no,
yeah,
I thought that story was really good, because I suffer from that a lot as well, especially with starting a new business. I'm like, I've never done business before, and I'm like, oh, okay, no, I'm not good enough, my Instagram feed is not shiny enough, and
yes.
yeah,
Your Instagram's great. Yeah, it's really great. Yeah, and also that whole, the worthiness, when we are kind to ourselves, and we accept ourselves, we feel more worthy, I believe, of the good. Or, we don't want to sabotage, because we know we deserve to have a rich, rewarding life. There's not so much sabotaging when we are kind to ourselves, and when we feel worthy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, kindness again. I think that's really awesome as well, because I've realized, sometimes I am pretty harsh with my children, like they just drive me nuts, and I'm like harsh to them, and then it comes back to me like 5 minutes later. I'm like, I'm so guilty that I spoke harshly with them, and
Yeah.
then you just beat yourself over it, and yeah.
Yeah, what I would encourage there, if you were a client and you were telling me that, I would say, I think the first step is to practice kindness toward yourself.
Yes.
So when you're having tough times, or when you feel like you're not good enough or not intelligent enough or whatever it is, to really be kind to yourself during those processes. And I'm a believer that when we're kinder to ourselves, then we're kinder to our loved ones. When
Yeah.
we're more accepting to ourselves, we're more accepting to our loved ones and to others. So I think quite often we want to change the way we are with other people, but that can just be a reflection of what we are like to ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, bring in the softness and the compassion and the empathy toward yourself, and then watch how your relationship with other people shifts as well. Yeah.
Right. That's so beautiful. Which leads me again back to that graphic and what you said, the second half of it, which says acknowledging and healing what arises from it is life changing. How do you go on that journey of healing? I have spoken to I think she was a coach, but in general, I just had a conversation with her, and then she asked me, "So, what vehicle do you use for healing?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe sitting in Tesla Model X would be really nice to go on the healing journey."
I love
Uh, so,
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, better. Okay, maybe Tracy would be a person to actually explain this to me in much more simple terms that I can understand. What is healing and how do you go on this journey?
Oh man, that's such a big question. There are so many modalities out there
Right.
that can help us with our healing.
Mhm.
From Reiki to seeing a psychologist to midi, there's just so many modalities. One thing that has really helped me is Louise Hay's philosophies. So, I remember seeing her in Melbourne, and she talked about how she helped people with their issues and they had some success, but when she helped them love themselves, their problems faded away. And that's been sort of my motto: the kinder and more loving I can be through the pain that I've felt, and that might be self-forgiveness practices like writing a letter to myself and then burning it to forgive myself for things that I've done in the past, or simply sitting with my hand on my heart and my hand on my belly and connecting to my breath and imagining breathing out pain that I've held on to. Or there's lots of journaling. I do lots of journaling to help me release things. I've just been listening to an amazing podcast on Nuku around using our menstrual cycle to release old traumas and stuff. So there are just so many different modalities. And I think the key is coming back around to the first one, which is connection, of what we spoke about, is looking and finding what you're connected to, what resonates with you, that you feel can help you to work through whatever is going on for you. Yeah. I
Right.
find, yeah, gosh, it's such a big question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm just thinking about my past, my childhood, and um, like I told you, I grew up in a convent. Most of the time, like I was bullied a lot. I was by myself, no parent support and all that. So that's made me pretty independent, I guess. But when I was doing this journaling session, and I don't know, this could be healing or I don't know what it was, but I'm just sharing it with you. Um, I just sat down in the morning and I started journaling, and I looked at my hands, and I was like, oh my God, these hands, they have been like, they've just been through so much, like from a childhood. I just imagine my hands, like just looking at my hands, I was like, I imagine them carrying those books, going to church, carrying those chalice and just being really busy in the church. And yeah, And then and now to motherhood. And I just kept on looking at my hands and I just wept like crazy. And I was like,
Wow.
what's going on? And as a kid, I used to get a lot of chilblains. So
Mm,
I look at my hands and I said, like, oh my God, these hands have gone through so much. And
mm,
to like holding a child in my arms and, breastfeeding. And I just kept looking at my hands and I kept weeping and I couldn't understand what happened. But I
mm.
think it is one of the most miraculous experiences I've had.
Yes, I've got goosebumps. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a beautiful healing and connection, to what is real, to what is important, and a part of you. Deep gratitude. That was deep gratitude that you were feeling. Yeah, by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
Um,
but I just didn't know, and I didn't know what to make out of it too. So that moment, just passed, and then after that, I wiped my tears away, and then got into, back into my day, and I was like, what was that? Like, I really
yeah,
don't know.
gosh. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because sometimes we want to understand intellectually what is going on, and
Yes,
sometimes it's not an intellectual situation that
right.
has words to explain what has happened. It's simply something happening on a cellular, spiritual, I don't know, level
Yeah,
that we don't have words for. But I think the more we trust that kind of stuff when it happens, the more we have that connection to ourselves, the more intuition starts to come through. That's rich. That's so beautiful. Wow.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember having, it wasn't like that, but it was a journaling session where I had to write a love letter to my body.
Ah,
And I, in it, I apologized for how I treated it. I made promises to it. I thanked it. And it shifted. And I've still got work to do here. However, it shifted um, the compassion and the love I had for my body, because for years I really resented my body because I had health issues and, I didn't like parts of it and all that kind of stuff. But
yes, yes.
man, it was really healing to write that letter and to be very, very honest with my body, and apologize and ask for forgiveness for the way I had treated her. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
magic.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. No, we
mm,
do. I think, yeah, I felt that way about my body after I had my second child, because I'm like, oh, I'm flabby, this, that, like we all women do. But then I just realized, like, this body's gone through so much carrying a child, and then I just had a whole different appreciation for my body.
yeah.
I still have issues with my face because I get a lot of breakouts and I hate it. And, like, I hate going in front of the camera because I've got breakouts. But down here, I'm like, oh my God, like
Oh, you're
rest.
stunning. Jeepers. Yeah, you're stunning.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
I,
Oh,
I think too, speaking about the body, it's the more we get connected and appreciate our body, this is going on a bit of a tangent, but I think
yes.
that's when we become more connected to Mama Earth, Papatūānuku as well, and we care for her and we respect her and we think about what we're doing for her when we are connected to our own body and stuff. Which I love that. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
like
that's
yeah.
it's
Mm.
such a deep level. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I
mm.
think we are
Yeah.
going on a body tangent now. Then we'll come back to your
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And so one of the exercises that you do with your clients is look at how much time they are spending thinking of the past. I think I come
Mm.
under that category, the present and the future. Now, what does this do?
Mm. Okay, so one thing about people who live in, what I've noticed is people who live in the future, they, one, don't stop to celebrate what they're achieving. They're about striving and doing, and they can end up burnout. Um, you know, they might be excelling in their business, but their relationship is falling apart. So, always striving and in that hustle, and life will be better once, they have that kind of mentality. Life will be better once I've achieved this, this, and this. Yeah. So getting them back into the present moment allows them to enjoy now, rather than feeling like once I've done that stuff, then life will be okay. So that's one thing. It's also about when you're coming back into the present, like I said before, it's about that's where you hear intuition more. That's where you respond rather than react. Yeah, it's where the magic unfolds. It's where you see things more, more vividly. You hear things more vividly. And then the past, it's great to go back to the past at times, it really is. However, if you're always there, then again, you're missing what is right here for us. The past can be painful. And if we're constantly in that, then that's holding us back from achieving and enjoying and experiencing what is right here, right now. So I think one of the biggest reasons why I love to get people into the present is because that's where we make fantastic choices that are aligned to our values and how we want to feel and what truly means the most. But when we're in the future, in the past, too much, this is my thoughts, we get caught up in that stuff and then we miss the now.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Because we are not there anymore. So, like we're not in the past and we're not in the future. So it doesn't really make
Yeah.
sense to be too much in those places. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's
And an example of that is, so a client who she had experiences when she was a child where she was, rejected quite a bit and she felt alone. And then she came to get some coaching, and she talked about how she didn't have any real deep connections with friends and stuff. And then I asked her a few questions about her life, and then she had 3 examples of amazing people around her. And she wasn't even seeing the connections in those relationships because she was still in that space of being rejected by those people back there. And
right.
so, yeah. And so when you come into the present moment and you see what you've actually got right here, you realize that you're not back there and you're not still experiencing that stuff. It's just that those default beliefs are having a bit of a game with you of making you believe that stuff, but it's
Yeah.
not been true. Yeah.
Right,
Mm.
right. And you just flick a switch and you're like, oh, okay. So this is here in front of me and I didn't even see it.
Yeah. So, and awareness is just so powerful, when you become aware of what those old patterns are, those old beliefs, with the awareness of those, when you're in life and you're starting to react, you quite often realize that you are back in one of those old beliefs. And by noticing it and going, I'm not good enough right now,
Right.
acknowledging it and feeling it. Oh yeah, I can feel it in my belly, my tummy's churning. And then taking some beautiful big deep breaths.
Yes.
And then what's proof that I am good enough? Where's the proof that I am good enough? Or Trace, you are doing amazing and you are good enough in so many ways. Then life looks a whole lot different through those glasses than the ones that are saying I'm not good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just perspective, isn't it?
It is 100%. Yes.
Perspective, yeah, and mindset. God, I've been reading this book by Professor Carol Dweck on mindset and the psychology of success, and it's been eye-opening. I'm like, oh my God, I was wearing the wrong glasses all the time. But I'm so glad I found it, and yes, I'm working towards, building a better mindset. Yeah. So Tracy, now, what is life coaching and what can a life coach really help you with for our audiences who were thinking like, oh, okay, what does because I've got lots of friends, they're like, what is a life coach? Many people in the corporate don't even know what a life coach is. So yeah, as a life coach yourself, can you tell us what a life coach really is and who can they help with?
Okay. So a life coach is someone who helps you get clarity and this is my perspective, gives you clarity and awareness around past situations that could be holding you back. And then they help you get from where you are now to where you want to go. Obviously, help you get clarity around where you want to go and what you want to achieve. Maybe you want a more fulfilling relationship, or you want to grow your confidence in regards to your work and becoming a better leader. Maybe you want to communicate more clearly. So getting awareness around how your past might be affecting you, but not staying back there and in the past for a long, long time. Like I don't do that. It's about gaining awareness, seeing how that's showing up in your life now, giving you practical tools that are going to support you to change those thought patterns and achieve your goals, and then holding you accountable and cheering you on big time to get to where you want to go. I've got clients who are in the corporate, self-employed, employees, from all walks of life. It's just amazing. And they just want to either learn from old patterns, maybe they're repeating a pattern, maybe in their
Yes.
relationships. They've manifested like 3 guys that are quite similar. Or they find that in many situations they don't speak up, or they've gone through a massive adjustment or shift or something really painful, and they want to change it. They don't want to experience that anymore. Or they love life and they want to love it even more, and they've got some goals that they just want to, achieve and nail. So yeah, there's many different ways, but it's more about practical tools to get you to where you want to go.
Right.
So I get quite a few people who have gone to counselors and psychologists, who have real self-awareness now because they've gone to that.
Yes.
And now they want to put that stuff into practice,
Right.
and to make it more practical and embody what they've learned with those psychologists and counselors.
Right, and take action, because that's where the magic happens, as they say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Super. Tracy, thank you so much for being here in my show. It's been awesome talking to you. You've got so much knowledge, and like I say, always a big fan of your work. So it was really awesome talking to you. Now, Tracy is one of our coaches. If you go to getcoached.co.nz and look at life coaches, she's there beautifully smiling in a red dress. So yeah, she's one of our coaches there, and she's actually been one of my first founding members. So she's been really supportive of my work. So thank you so much again, Tracy, for that. It really means a lot. And can you let our audience know where else they can connect with you?
So you can connect with me at my website, blossom.net.nz, or on social media, Blossom with Tracy Manu, on Facebook and Instagram. And I would love to say thank you so much for having me on your show and for creating this platform for coaches where people can find a coach that, they connect to, because that's the key. You've got to find a coach that you connect to. Don't just go with the first one. And so, yeah, I really appreciate you creating that platform and having me on your show. I love your work. So thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. All right.